Last night, Nebraska knocked off Colorado 28-10 at Memorial Stadium in one of the biggest games I've ever seen in person. But over the last couple hours, I've rewatched the game for the second time, and I've come up with 5 big things that we learned from the Huskers versus the Buffaloes. And then I'm going to give you my MVPs on offense and defense. So, man, what a game yesterday. If you're pumped up about Nebraska starting off 2-0, I know I am. Hit that like button. And hey, if you're new to the channel or just a returning viewer, make sure to subscribe. I post daily Nebraska football content, and I am not slowing down anytime soon. So if you are a diehard fan of this program and you want a daily video talking about your favorite team, hit that subscribe button. You are not going to regret it. But without further ado, let's get into it, going over the 5 things that we learned from Nebraska versus Colorado, Coach Matt Rhule versus Deion Sanders. Well, the first thing we learned about Nebraska is this defense is officially legit. No more smoke, no more narratives. They proved last night that they're one of the best defenses in all of America. We heard the speculation, Shedeur Sanders is coming to town with Travis Hunter and their loaded wide receiver core. How will Nebraska fare? Well, they fared pretty well. It was a shutout at halftime. Nebraska forced a pick 6. They had a forced fumble. They had 6 sacks on the night. The defense dominated, and it started with the defensive line. The linebackers showed out, the secondary showed out, and they played best when the lights were most bright. When everybody was watching on NBC at Memorial Stadium, they played up to par. And guys like Ty Robinson, Mekhi Bayer, Nash Hutmacher, Tommy Hill, all balled out in this defense is officially not just a top 20 unit, not just a top 15 unit. There is a real conversation that it might be a top 10 unit in all of college football. So Nebraska's defense, the black shirts, are legit, no doubt about it. My second storyline is in terms of the offense, however, particularly the running back position. Dante Dowdle, the second thing we learned, might be running back 1 going forward. He had 17 carries for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns on the night, along with, of course, 4.4 yards a carry, and he ran very hard. Again, he had that nice stiff arm, had a juke move, had a truck. He even had a hurdle at one point in the game. So Dante Dowdle really had a bag of tricks, and he played phenomenal. And I was low on Dante Dowdle. I talked about earlier in the week that I didn't know if he was really going to play due to his fumbling issues. I thought maybe Emmett Johnson would give him more carries, Gabe Ervin would give him more carries. Dante proved himself. He's that guy, along with Ramir Johnson. Those two are probably going to trade off carries going forward. And I also want to give Ramir some love. He was our receptions leader, along with receiving yards leader, with 8 receptions and about 50 yards, along with that touchdown that he had, which was incredible. So Ramir is absolutely going to be a part of the game plan. But this running back room is very interesting. If you told most Nebraska fans, 3 weeks ago that Dante Dowdle and Ramir would be your 2, and that Emmett Johnson and Gabe Ervin would barely get carries, they would not believe you, let alone I would not believe you. But it looks like things are turning that way. So the Dante Dowdle fan base, I'm sure they're very happy. Third thing that we learned from Nebraska versus Colorado, we need to have a real conversation about the special teams, folks, because it is a concern. And I mean particularly the kicking situation. Tristan Alvano had a 31-yard field goal, bricked it, wasn't even close. Wide left. We also had a kickoff issue where John Hull was the guy who goes back there for those kickoffs, and they were short. And we benched him for Brian Buschini midway along the game. Okay, listen, you can get away with having some special teams errors against teams like Colorado that aren't very disciplined and don't execute at a high level. But if you start to play teams like Rutgers, Iowa in the later half of the year, Wisconsin, they're going to take advantage. Every single small mistake you have on offense, defense, and particularly special teams, they will try to beat you because of that. Okay, Colorado's not good enough to really take advantage of that. But we need to clear it up because Tristan Alvano, clearly his confidence shot, it's something more than that, though. Yes, he's injured, but the problem is he's going to remain injured the entire year. Groin injuries does not go away. It's going to linger. Okay, so I implore Matt Rhule, I would implore him to give John Hull a chance in next game. He needs to be the guy because we've seen this Tristan Havano song and dance. He's had opportunities. He's had chances. He's failed at every single one of them. It's time to give John Hull an opportunity because he really hasn't had one yet, at least kicking field goals. So special teams is an issue. That's my third storyline. Fourth storyline, Ja'Cory Barney. I told you guys in March. I told you guys in May. I told you guys in July. Buy Ja'Cory Barney stock. It is finally paying off. This guy's special. 6 receptions for 29 yards, but that stat line does not do him justice. He was phenomenal returning the kickoffs. He also had a one-handed catch that was taken off the board. Basically, was a bad throw by Raiola. He snagged it. Had a 5 yards run after the catch. And he also had a big run after the catch for about 30, 35 yards that was also taken off the board because of a holding penalty, which we will get to later in this video. But yeah, Ja'Cory Barney, he's the future. Buy stock. He might start as the year progresses. So that, I mean, he's just special. He's slippery. A guy who can play all positions on the field. But you know that Matt Rhule just wants to get him involved. A lot of times, Ja'Cory Barney, he just checks in for one play and they do a little slip screen or they do a little jet sweep just to get the ball in his hands because he's so freaking talented. Buy stock because he's going to be in the mix to be an All-American as his career progresses at Nebraska. The fifth storyline. This Nebraska culture is different. And it's very evident when you play teams like Colorado who have terrible cultures. Okay, Nebraska had a poor second half. Very poor second half. The offense was not executing. They had a 3-and-out. They had another 3-and-out. The defense was starting to give up yards. And Nebraska teams in the past would start to give up. They'd start to doubt themselves. They'd start to give up touchdown after touchdown. We didn't do that. Okay, and don't get me wrong, we didn't score a single point offensively in the second half. But the defense did enough. They kept the faith. We kept the confidence up. And we won 28-10. Other Nebraska teams would fold. And Colorado would go down, score a touchdown, score another touchdown, and boom, it's a 2-score game. And look at that. Okay, that did not happen. So this Nebraska culture is different, and it's very evident when you play teams like Colorado who have terrible cultures. Colorado's going to crumble as the year progresses because they don't believe. They don't believe in Deion Sanders. The charade is over. It's different here in Nebraska. We believe in Matt Rhule. One extra storyline, the sixth and final. We have a holding issue. Again, that fourth quarter, yes, I think a lot of it, there were some reffing issues, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to sit here and blame the ref single-handedly. Like, it was an execution issue, and Matt Rhule mentioned that in his press conference, right after the game, in his interview, that's an issue. We cannot have that. We cannot have holding penalties that wipe off touchdowns from the board. Ramiro Johnson had a big run that was wiped off. Ja'Cory Barney had a big catch that was wiped off. So we need to do better. We cannot have those little tic-tac penalties because, once again, when you're in close games, those will add up. Luckily, today we were not in a close game, so it didn't really matter. But that is an issue. I'm looking at you, Bryce Benhart, because that's been an issue your entire career. I'm looking at you, Turner Corcoran. I'm looking at you, some of the wide receivers like Janiron Bonner. He struggled with that. So, again, it's just a whole issue, and we need to clear it up going into the back half of the year. All right, those are my 6 storylines. I threw out one extra one. Now it's time to give you my offensive and defensive MVPs through Nebraska's performance through their game 2 versus Colorado. Offensive MVP, it's going to go to Dante Dowdle. I was actually in between him and Ramir. It feels good that 2 running backs are in the mix there. Dante just ran so hard, had 2 touchdowns. Again, what I told you guys all week, if Nebraska was going to be successful in this ball game, it'd be by running the ball down their throat. Dante did just that. He was great. He was phenomenal. He did everything that we asked of him. For that reason, he gets my MVP. Again, Ramir is the runner-up, and that's really the only 2 even in the running. Like, Raiola played okay, but he did struggle a little bit. And he still was 20 for 27, but those 2 are my MVPs. Dante and then Ramir is my honorable mention. Defensive MVP, I'm going to give it to Mekhi Bayer. You know, I could say anybody in the defensive line, and that would be pretty much valid, but I loved watching Mekhi play in person yesterday. He had a TFL, 6 tackles. He's just flying around, man. He had a targeting right at the end of the game where it should not have been a targeting, by the way, but Mekhi Bayer, man, buy stock now. Another guy who I've been talking about for years. Like, watch out because he runs so hard, he plays so hard, he's an athletic freak, and he's a future NFL player. So that is going to be my defensive MVP. But I could give this defensive MVP to literally anybody. Tommy Hill, boom. Ty Robinson for the 2nd week in a row, boom. Nash, boom. Jamar had a good game. Prince Emmanuel played awesome. So the whole defense deserves an MVP, but if I were to pick one guy, I'll give it to my linebacker, Mekhi Bayer. All right, guys, big victory. Celebrate! Because Nebraska is 2-0 for the first time in a long time, and we just beat a big-time rival in Colorado. All right, guys, let me know, what was your big storyline from yesterday's performance? Let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.